Dr. Leah Johansen, it is so great to have you on the show today. We've had a few conversations, which has really inspired me. Before we get into what we're going to talk about today, you have a sort of a unique path to becoming a doctor. You're an MD. Tell us all about how that happened.
Yeah, thank you. David, it's so good to be here. It's been such a gift, even this short time getting to know you. I'm really excited. You're such a beautiful soul and you're doing really beautiful things. I was a very atypical kind of family circus route to medicine. I always had a desire to help people. I've wanted to be a pediatrician when I was really young. I've been always curious about the root cause of people's experiences and passionately wanting to help them be their best selves. This is something I've always had, but I became really curious about life as a teenager. Like, what are we doing here? What is this all about? And started getting into spirituality and Christianity and started and took the idea of medicine and wanted to become a missionary. I was really gung ho. I mean, really about wanting to serve, wanting to help people find this love, because the thing about Christianity, which I discovered later on that I was seeking, was this beautiful unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, thinking that I needed that and that it was something I wanted. I went to Christian school, when I graduated from high school, and I realized, like, okay, there's more than one way. It's not just Christianity that's the answer for me. So I actually left, went to Europe for a year, was traveling, trying to figure out, like, okay, what do I do now? Like, what am I going to do? I had insecurity around going into medicine, thinking I couldn't do it. I wasn't going to be smart enough. Like, it's, competitive. And so I was in this like in between stage for quite a few years until I went to massage school. I was doing energy work, and that was very healing. And once I graduated massage school, I knew that I was going to go into medicine and that I was going to bridge the gap because I wanted to know more of the science and really what was research showing that we weren't applying. How can we bridge these two fields together to really create healing so that we can really live in our best lives? So that was the next 10 years, all through my 30s, was medical school, residency, finished at Case Western doing family medicine. And then that's when I found functional medicine, which was root cause, really. Integrative was always the energy. There's all the other different modalities, but really looking at what is the root. What is really the root? And that's always something I've been digging for. That's the short story of the little path, but I was definitely older by the time I went in, and had lived a life. I'd gone through some of the deeper questions around, like, what are we doing here? And that's been really pivotal, I think, in understanding how we live our optimal life.
Amazing. Yeah, most people, they're just sort of a straight line, and
Yes.
I love your story. I want to touch on this idea of belief systems and
Yeah.
how our beliefs affect our health and wellness outcomes.
Yeah. I could even just start personally. So this idea, in my 20s when I was confused and I didn't have the confidence in myself, that's where depression came. And so when there is depression, you have to really ask yourself, and there's anxiety, it's what's the pathophysiology, some of the underlying roots, and especially around your belief systems around, am I good enough? Do I belong? Those are big things. So that's what I see with my patients when we really go in. I training in Cleveland. There's a lot of poverty, a lot of still disparities with race. African Americans, a lot of chronic disease there, and some of the problems, really, the root was that they were still experiencing racism in the workplace. Their blood pressures were high, so to treat them with a drug and have resistant hypertension, if you don't address the roots, like that, a lot of my times it was a lot of my work with patients in Ohio was getting them to believe in themselves, that they have more capacity than they realize. That was their treatment role instead of just medications. That was more successful to them. That, I mean, that would work better. It was just, so I could see the connection. The more patients I work with, the more this is just so inevitable. Whether you're a CEO and executive, and whether you still have some insecurity laying around, and that's why you're still insulin resistant, whether you're eating really well. I see this a lot with women too, really, like, they're eating really well, super clean, they're really thin, yet their A1C is still high, their 3-month marker for blood sugars. And so when you get into it, there's the anxiety, like, am I good enough? Some fear of failure, some fear of the relationship, some drama somewhere around. So that stress, cortisol, from the belief system of the underlying roots of, There's relationships having issues. Like, do I feel loved? Do I feel like I belong? Some of these deeper questions start coming up. The more and more I see these correlates, and the more that we're seeing the signs, especially with now the tools with heart rate variability. The thing is that, heart rate variability, we have to remember that we are not just chemical beings, like we are electrochemical. Modern medicine focuses very much on the chemical side of the body. That's where the drug development, that's what nutrition, these are all physical things. That's chemical side, but the electro side, we have an electromagnetic field, and those things we're finding are really highly influenced by our mind, by our thought, by our belief systems about ourselves, belief systems about our place in the universe. Do we belong? Are we supported here? Why am I here? I don't even feel like I fit in. Like, people, that goes into your mind. Like, this world can be so challenging, so much negativity. We wonder, why are we still, what am I doing here? Those belief systems, though, can carry then on a physics level, they can manifest then on a chemistry level, higher levels of inflammation, higher levels of that blood sugar, that A1C. Those things can go up. We're starting to now see that this is not a magical gap. It's really, there's a science bridge. That's the beauty of where we're at right now.
This is super interesting. I like this idea of like not fitting in, not belonging, the anxiety of what that means. So you're the science person, so just let me know. You're in a sympathetic state. You're scared.
Yep.
Sympathetically activated. The sympathetic system is that sort of fear, like flight and fight, versus the sort of rest and recovery parasympathetic system, which would be, I belong, I'm safe, everything's okay. Is that sort of what we're talking about
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, so that's a big part of how the field is generated. So this is a great place to look at HeartMath Institute to start looking at this, because this is what heart rate variability can be too. So when you're in a sympathetic state, your heart rate goes up higher. So the heart rate variability is the variability between the beats. And so when you're in a calmer state, you have that with your heart rate will go down. So you're going to have more opportunity for variability. That's part of the physiology. And we know that when you have less variability, that puts you prone to diabetes, to hypertension, to cardiovascular disease. We know obesity. So stress, insomnia, we've made those correlates already. So and the sympathetic is so highly influenced by the mind, and parasympathetic to the vagus nerve. These are very highly influenced. This is, I think, one of the most easiest aspects to get, because you can slow it down the easiest with your breath. This is knowing that we have this here, then the thing to do about it is you can use your breath. This is the fastest way. You can do also carotid massage, things like this over your neck. But if we can understand that the sympathetic can be highly influenced by our perception as well. Perception of fear, for example, you'll hear musicians talking about changing their fear to excitement when they're going to go on stage and perform. So it's an active perception. There's a great author as well, Galvin de Becker, who wrote The Gift of Fear, which tells you about your sympathetic nervous system giving you information if there's going to be trauma coming to you. And this is a really good book. I think everyone should read this book, The Gift of Fear. It teaches you the difference between a real threat and perceived threat. So your mind can create that sympathetic, and this on a simple level is your mind can create arousal. Let's just think about sexual. Your mind, you see something or you think of something and you can get sexually aroused. That's how fast it can turn.
I've talked a lot about HRV. I just want to tell people I measure my heart rate variability, which is the difference in time between beats, which sort of counterintuitively you would think that the more sort of metronome your heart rate is, the better. Well, not really. It's the more differences in the difference between the beats happen, that's the variability. And this is an indication of total systemic stress. So stress can be physical stress, emotional stress, mental stress, immune response stress. It's like you only got one battery. This sort of measures like
Yes.
how much battery you got.
Yes.
So I look at it, and for myself, I had Joel Jameson on the show, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and I've been using his Morpheus device. And there's other ways to check your heart rate variability, but I choose to check mine with this every morning just before I get out of bed. And then in that 2.5 minute window, it says, okay, this is how much you recovered or not. And that lets me know, am I run down? Could I be getting sick? Today, your awesome, the battery is full. You can really go at it in the gym today, or maybe not. You might want to back off. That's the practicality of how I use it.
I think that's a beautiful way to use it, and use it, that's it, to check your day, use it throughout the day. And I think it'd be great to even segment a couple times throughout the day. All right, check in, where are you at, so that we don't go a
Hmm.
full day and realize, oh, I've been in sympathetic, and because it's subtle. It is so, and the first time I used heart math, because it's also a device where it checks it, I used to get really frustrated because I'm thinking I'm generally a pretty calm person. I thought I was, and I would put on the device, and it would say I would have a low heart rate variability, or it would say I was out of coherence, and it would flash red, and it would make me frustrated. I'm like, what? And then I would get more red, and I realized like it can be really subtle, especially when we've tolerated a high level of stress
Hmm.
for very long, high level anxiety. We can have an outer calm. You can have an outer shell that looks good, but an inner, it may be more active than you realize, and especially over time. Just like how cancer can sometimes be caught at stage 4, a lot of times is caught at stage 4, because the changes are so subtle of suffering, or the changes of discomfort that we feel. And that because we are so out of tune with our body, especially if you've ever had trauma, either like physical trauma, emotional trauma, growing up, sexual trauma growing up, which the rates are so high, people usually have checked out of their body. They're not as present. And so they're to feel those little variability changes, it takes attention. It takes awareness. It takes, you have to like be there. So I think it'd be great during the day to use that, really check in, because the more that you have that awareness, then instead of trying to catch up at the end of the day, you're able to be very present with it. And then, okay, how can I be even more relaxed here? Like that's something I say when I even get a massage. Like, and I just now use that during my day. Like when I'm in massage, can I get more relaxed? And you'll watch your body just drop. Can I let go even more? Because so this is a great example. When I was a massage therapist, I'd have people on the table and I'd tell them to relax, and their arm would be sticking straight out, and they're like, I am. I'm like, you are holding your arm. They wouldn't even realize like how much they're holding until I get them to go like, okay, just like exhale a little bit deeper, and then they can feel it. You can feel it drop down. So I think that's a great tool to just keep using throughout your day, because the more, that's the trick, right? The more awareness that we have, so that we can make every moment in in this balance, in coherence. That's the goal. That is the goal. If we could really make that which requires awareness, so that from there, the responsiveness, the coherence means that you can respond to whatever's happening, because they're going to be tornadoes. This is guaranteed. The thing that is guaranteed in life is change, and those tornadoes may come. And so your ability to have the beat to beat variability, that responsiveness from the parasympathetic, instead of being just stagnant, you actually have this responsiveness capacity to be in flow. That's like almost what the flow state, we're going to say, is that you are in coherence with that, and can handle then the opportunities that come your way, what we consider, the problems, the hurricanes in our life, but they're really just opportunities. We just take out the judgment of them. They're just situations, right? They're just situations. We put on judgment of what is good or bad to us, because sometimes if we really let go, things that look like a problem actually become an opportunity.
Okay, that was a lot. It's okay. I've learned that when I wake up in the morning and if I feel like I'm a little, I can just sort of feel myself being a little too keyed up. If in my mind I'm floating in the warm water off of Oahu, like
Yes.
9 in the morning, it's amazing. My heart rate will drop 2 or 3 beats, and my HRV will go up about 5. Just if I could just like hold that. And
Yes.
then I have this sort of silly breath thing I do where I only breathe once every 10 seconds. So I just sort of in, out through my belly, wait 10 seconds. If you're at 60 beats a minute, it's 10. If you're at 50, it's 12. So I'm probably at 12 now. And that sort of brings everything just way down.
That's it, actually. So go even lower, 8 to 10.
Yeah,
Go to 6. You can go to 4 breaths per minute. So this is all what Kundalini is too.
right,
So Kundalini or pranayama, this is very structured breath work. I mean, it's so old, right? And it was only taught to leaders. That's what they used to do, was to bring your heart rate down that
right,
low. And then that's going to create more beat to beat variability. You're going to
right.
drop into the period. That's why it's just so fast. Your breath
Yeah.
is like the easiest. This is the easiest tool, and it's free. It's like, this is it. And your mind, that's the beauty. No one can take your mind. No one can take your breath. That's the beauty of going there. I love that. So can you keep that flow state have something
No.
to that's your state. I know. But
That's like two or
go
three
into
minutes. I can do that. That's about it. But you mentioned flow, and I had Steve Kotler on here. So Steve has written a number of books about flow, how to get into flow. You mentioned fear and excitement. So one of the key triggers for flow is exactly that. So if there's too much fear, you overload and things lock. If there's not enough and things are routine,
right.
you're also not enlivened enough to where you want to go. So you want to be in that sort of excited, but not overwhelmed I might die
Mm-hmm.
place in there.
Mm-hmm.
If I want that, that's not necessarily going to be trying to keep my heart rate under 50. You're up a little bit, you're sort of ready for
Right.
action, but it's okay.
Right.
You can manage it, but it's challenging. There's an element of novelty that you have to manage, added excitement there. What are the sort of breath techniques that I would use to get myself there?
So this is good because you also ski, right? You're downhill ski.
Yeah.
You like speed. So I also like speed. I ride motorcycle and down backcountry snowboard. So, but I consider this a meditation. And the faster I go, so I'm over 100, 120, 140, 150,
150 miles an hour.
maybe the highest is 164. It was so amazing. I have a Triumph Speed Triple RR. She's so gorgeous. So here it is. It's a meditation. Why I love it. Why I love it. Because you have no other place to go. So if you are thrown off, right? If you're thrown out of your coherence because of your mind, because it's thinking in the future or the past, let's be honest
Right.
about where it's going.
You're
It's
dead.
usually not here. Yeah, you're not. But that's the thing. So the beauty of why so many of us like extreme sports because we are so present. A trick that I use even during the day is tongue to the roof of the mouth. So I will do that during the day. And if you can have an inner smile, this is kind of the work of like Montauk Chia, who does the meditation microcosmic orbit. This is one of my new favorite meditations outside of
Wait,
pranayama and
back that up. What
kundalini.
did I say that again? What
Okay.
did you say?
Yeah, so the microcosmic orbit is a beautiful, almost qigong exercise where it channels your energy, your battery. So this concept of the battery is really important because this is what a lot of Aikido masters talk about. The Dan Qian is about. It's that battery. Also, this is really important that we're cultivating that because the drainage of your battery, which then applies to the mitochondria, the ATP production, all that. This energetic side, the physics side of that. Montauk Chia has a meditation where you start in the Dan Qian and there's a vessel. It goes down through your back, up through the crown, third eye, pineal, to the tongue. That's the governing and then the functional channel, and then down to the front of the body. And you circle this energy. This is one of the most, I feel like, high yield meditations I've done in a very long time, where I'm grounded, I'm able to stay, and I'm like even simple things of like being on time. Where I used to always just push it right to the edge. I would try to put so many things in, never enough, never enough. Where now maybe I'm getting a little bit more wise in this way, but it's grounding me in a way and I'm able to go through my day in much more of a flow state. Yes, the Stephen Kotler, like what he's talking about, like this flow state. So this is really interesting. So one of the tricks you do for that meditation, tongue to the roof of the mouth, and that's going to force you to breathe through your nose. That's another thing. Breathe through your nose. Shut your mouth, and that's keep the mouth shut and breathe through your nose. That will instantly drop you into a slower rate. But the tongue to the roof, and then yeah, and then inner smile. Remember Oahu. Remember, you feel that ocean, feel that, listen to that sunshine, feel that. The more you can feel that, having that just for a split second, you can meditate to the point that you feel it, right? You feel the warmth. If you're meditating, being on the ocean, you can feel the sun, hitting you. You can recreate. That's the beauty of the mind. It's so powerful. So that would be an easy way to get you in there moment to moment. So when you're doing things like activities like that require a lot of attention, whether it's high speed motorcycles or whether it's, focusing on some task at hand, closing the mouth, tongue to the roof of the mouth, and just be there present. Did you ever watch Mr. Rogers' documentary? Not the film, the documentary. It was done by his son.
I didn't
It was
know.
so, oh my God, it's really do it. I mean, he had a heart of gold. He cared so much about people and understood the damage of media, the potential damage of creating entrainment. Part of our problem, right, that we have of our not enoughness, we have to be honest, comes from capitalism, comes from the commercial idea that we are being sold that we're never good enough, we're never beautiful enough, we're never thin enough, We're never enough. You leave the United States for a while and come back. You leave the country for a few months and come back. The bombardment of needing to consume is so high. Going back to Mr. Rogers. So he would do this game with the kids. Is like, okay, do you want to feel what a minute feels like? You can make 1 minute. We have 24 hours in the day, but if you can sit for just a second, closing the mouth, just even 30 seconds, just do that. You're going to set the next 2 hours. You can hold that space. And then that's the discipline of holding that and being like, and choosing, I'm not going to go to the future. It's not like you don't plan, but I'm not going to go to the past. Like that's my yesterday. I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to take responsibility. This is the difference in going even to the ideas of judgment and self-blame, because this is really where I want to kind of get into, is that this is us blaming ourselves to the point that we can't get out of this negative mindset is what creates the ongoing depression, the ongoing anxiety, and the high suicide rates. We have a 30% increase, in suicide rates, over the last 3 years. If we can keep our mind out of the self-blame in a constructive way to take responsibility for our actions, no matter what has gone on, if we have done something or we haven't, this is all perception too. But if we can just be responsible, have discipline to be present with your breath right now, the return on your physiology, if you can choose to stay out of the panic, out of the fight, the flight, the freeze. The freeze mode is there too, because it can actually put you into I can't move, the paralysis. That's really the goal when you're thinking about optimal health. The thing that I think we're really missing is this space and this silence. If we can live in this space of really, it's peace, this is harmony, this is joy. That's where these emotions, and from there, then really like your problem solving potential is a lot higher. That's where your wisdom will come. It's because you're in a parasympathetic state. That's a very different executive function than being in a sympathetic. That's been highly correlated, that if you're over in fear, your executive function and your ability to problem solve is highly diminished. Your memory recall. They've done these studies with students. If they're in a high stress state, too stressed, they can't recall. Little bit is good excitement. You got to be adrenaline. You can't be too passive. There's this like fine line of being, but the more that you can stay with your breath, stay grounded, which then that's the physical. So that's the mind, but then the physical, go outside of the mountains. If you're in like the city, yeah, spend time getting out and somehow getting your feet on the ground, the grounding techniques, eating the foods that are also based on your maybe genetic variability, understanding your differences. I don't want to be too overwhelming in all the different aspects of this, but understanding then what do you need as an individual to stay grounded in the space? Do you need to spend a little bit more time by yourself before you're with groups, before you're with your family? Do you need to regroup? And what do you need? What kind of food is actually nourishing for you? Not all foods are meant for everyone at different states of their being, different times in their life, different times of the seasons. We have to change. And so it's really important that you as an individual to nurture the body, understand what do you need specifically to
Um,
stay in the flow.
you use the word silence. Silence is a really interesting word. Silence is sort of beyond language. To put words to what that is and what that means, it's just sort of a limiting cage. You can't really be verbalized. You talk about motorcycles. I've been out at the Lake Mirage speed trials. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's like Bonneville. Same thing.
Oh
It's
my, is that in
by
Salt Lake?
Bonneville's near Salt Lake. Lake Mirage is about 2 or 3 hours outside of Los Angeles. So every June they do
Oh,
speed trials.
okay.
They measure speed over, I don't know, I think the beacons are like over a quarter mile or something, but you see like people on bikes going 180 miles an hour, and there are cars there going well in excess of 200 miles an hour. The look, the mindset of the people who drive these vehicles, who pilot them, they are in another state. They have to be,
Mm-hmm.
because the
Mm-hmm.
consequences are quite high. And it's something I've mentioned in the show in the past is I know a lot of high performing athletes. I find them fascinating. I had a couple of folks over. There was Doug Lewis, who was a U.S. Olympic downhiller, and his wife, Wendy, was over. And Wendy was World Cup downhiller for Canada. And she exploded her ankle and her career ended. And I said, "What do you miss?" And she said, and she told me this, it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. She told me this. And I always remember, she said, the silence. And at the time, it was just confounding to me. What I couldn't even ask her the question. Like it was just so
Yeah.
messed up. What do you mean? The act is actually quite noisy, right? Like if you're driving a motorcycle at 160 miles
Yeah.
an hour,
Yes.
quite noisy.
Yes. Yes.
She met something else that
It's like,
like this.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you can feel it if you've ever skydived, there when they chute goes off and then you're floating.
right. Yeah.
That space, that's what it's like. I exactly know what she's feeling like. I think that silence could be explained by you have to be calm enough. Because if you notice a lot of those extreme athletes, like when you meet them, their disposition is actually very calm.
I was in New York last week and I had dinner with a friend of mine, and he's a painter. And we were talking about painting. He was saying that when it's really good, he's not painting. It's like the
Yeah.
painting is coming through him. So there's no
Yeah.
thinking, there's no analyzing.
Yeah.
It's just happening, which is exactly what happens to a high level athlete. You think this isn't going to work. You just have to react. And you see this with somebody like a Patrick Mahomes or something, an NFL quarterback. Like there's so much input, there can't be any thinking. There's just this moment that
Mm-hmm.
comes through the body that causes an action, which is not dissimilar from, I think it was Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilmore, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. It's amazing, right? She talks, I forget the
Yeah.
poet's name, who talks about she doesn't write. What happens is the words come through the air and she has to rush home while the words are still there to grab them, to put them down, but she doesn't create the words. So she
I
has to,
remember that. I remember her
this is,
talking about that.
this is
Yes.
amazing, right? And this
Yes.
idea that you have to sort of get in this everything off sort of silence mode for this to happen. And it comes to mind, we're talking about medicine and health outcomes, that
Mm-hmm.
the contrary of this, too much, I think that's fairly hard to access, that level of silence. But the other extreme of that is extreme noisiness, which is fear, like what you were thinking, or what
Mm-hmm.
you were saying. So what's the
Mm-hmm.
future? Oh my God, I regret the past. You're just like not here
Mm-hmm.
now. You're everywhere but here because
Mm-hmm.
there's all this sort of projection
Mm-hmm.
going on. And the health consequences of
Mm-hmm.
that. We mentioned it earlier, Robert Sapolsky's book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, talks
Mm-hmm.
about
Mm-hmm.
that. I was at another conference in New York where my friend Tamsin Vidal showed her menopause doc called M. It's just approved as a medical education by the California Medical Board. This is really good. And there were
Ooh.
all these like scientists there. And one of them was talking about how this idea of weathering, and weathering, particularly as an example in the African American community, there's a lot of stress, constant stress, which causes this, in effect, weathering on the human biology. And this is, what you were talking about. This weathering can happen from social media, it can happen from, CEO not feeling like they're good enough. These are all effects that degrade the biology based on essentially mindset. Like those same inputs can be happening. It's how do we deal with them internally? What is our mindset around those? How are we leveling ourselves down, increasing
Mm-hmm.
our, if we use a tracker like an HRV or something, but how do we pull that down? Because as you said, there are tornadoes all the time, and we can choose to
Right.
access them at will.
Right.
Like open your phone, filled with tornadoes. They're all yours if you want them. Or you can sort of pull down and get into that quieter mode, the endpoint of which is silence. How's that?
No, this is really good. And so there's so many pieces of this. So I think that this is the cultivation of this silence, this cultivation of this space. This is where I think the work comes in for you to actually do the meditation. This is where the whole organism, you have to look at the whole story too. So eating the foods that are supportive for you, the foods that are going to drain you down, right? Like really, really watching what exposures you are. If everyone doesn't have the app Yuka, YUKA, everyone should be using that and scanning any product they put on their face. These are all things that are going to cause more inflammation, which will create that, these things are all going to have an effect on the field. So we're having more devices to understand the field, our electromagnetic field, and what those inputs do to them. We already know low dose frequency, like workplace environments, sound environments, like those things all, there's so much data out there on how this is affecting our actual human biofield. This is our electromagnetic field. So these are really controlling that. The thing about, even going back to Big Magic. So in that book, she also talks about her dark passenger. So over time, we have this negative thinking that tries to shut us down. That is part of the field. So this dark passenger that usually has been made up by the sympathetic responses over time of being told I'm not good enough, or societal, the way we've been taught, the way that we've been also inherited. what we've inherited. We can inherit trauma, like also from, we remember our history. We've had a very globally, very bloody, history, men and women. So women even more suppression. So you have to coming clear of that. The way I feel like is, supporting the whole organism, right? The food, the sleep, but the mind and the breath, I think, are the most high yield. If I could put a hierarchy to it, not saying that there is one, because it is all these branches, right? Ayurveda, they'd say the eight limbs of Patanjali that uses your breath, your mind. They put all the TCM, Chinese medicine, they say the five elements. You have to support the whole organism, all of it, the environment. But I think for the field, then the way to really get the breath is the biggest way to generate this field that we have. Like martial arts use the Dan Xian. This is where they get their power when they're really doing martial arts. They're generating power from their core. It's not physical, it's an energetic power. So that is the goal, that if you can generate that, if it's in the field, the trauma, you are reshaping this, right? And again, there are more research to show like what the mind does to the field. Just look up all these different, PubMed, anything, PubMed, electromagnetic field, human by, human, like just see what, there's so many research articles on this about how this is influenced. So the goal is that you're going to clear the trauma so that you don't have the patterns of the negative thinking, because that negative thinking is going to keep setting you up for the chronic disease. You're
Mm.
never going to reverse the chronic disease if your self-esteem is low. This is like the main point that I really want to make for the whole, what I really think about chronic disease is your self-worth. And that self-worth then comes from the trauma, and it comes from then repetitively thinking about it, not getting out of the mind. So keeping yourself in this space, which, sometimes requires you to go through some of the processing, but that's the vulnerability. If you can be vulnerable and have the courage to experience whatever is maybe suppressed in you, especially if it's, sadness or frustration or not where fear, abandonment, judgment, all these things. If you can just recognize them, give them a space to have an exit. They're still there. Give them a space so that you can actually just be present and know you're safe, and then just trust that you do belong, that the universe has more capacity than we will ever imagine to support us as an individual.
Super interesting. I didn't think we were going to go quite into this. This is great. So I want to leave people with some practical things that they can take away from this. I think that saying letting go of prior trauma or this idea of feeling that you belong, these are big asks. You can't just like, okay, I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah.
Give us some ideas of things. I love the breath, slowing down the breath, the tongue and the roof of the mouth. How do you, if patients come to you and they have, as you said, they've got everything looks okay, but their A1C is really high, and you're wondering, like, why is that? So,
Mhm.
what are the things that you're telling your patients, the actions for them to take to get in coherence, to live healthier through a better
Mhm.
mindset?
I think the first thing is awareness. And that's usually where people will start to see, because if you it takes sometimes you're too frustrated, you're too angry to see it, and you're too upset and you're too depressed. You don't have it, and you don't have the capacity to feel. And that's where it gets, a little dangerous and slippery. That's where people can feel apathetic. And when you start to become apathetic, where you have no care in the world, that's where the suicide can start to happen. So when you're getting to that level, you have to at some point just say, you've had enough. The mind is not going to own you, and you have to then physically do something. Sometimes you have to work the mind to work the biology. Sometimes you have to work the biology to work the mind. Sometimes in order to get your body, it depends on where you're at and what state you're in. Emotions, like with women with menopause, the thing about your hormones, as your LH and your FSH are going up, these are true serums. So they're going to give you power to make a change. They're going to give you drive to make a change. The thing about depression, the depression over time, this can really, an insecurity, I'm not enough, that will affect men, their hormones. Your testosterone will go down. That's your will to live hormone. So at some point you have to say, like, I've had it, work the biology. What are the things, like, you have to look at the food, you have to, what do you need in the moment? You have to really ask yourself. And this is a moment to moment thing, because it can take time to get to the flow, to stay in the flow state, because you're constantly being thrown out by an old pattern. As you're rearranging, this is like neuroplasticity. as you're rearranging and learning a new skill, you're learning a new biology. Just Joe Dispenza, you're rewriting the story of your life. That's his book. Have awareness for what do you need now. If your mind is spinning and you're getting angry, like literally sometimes you have to just get up out of your seat and like go outside, put your feet on the ground and just breathe for a second and walk and do something. Sometimes you physically have to move. And I love doing somatic music. If you're not too depressed, if you're not there yet, turn on something that brings you joy, because we are sentient beings, meaning like we are influenced by sound. We are influenced by touch. If you have someone there who like next to you, or even you yourself, just put your hand on your chest. There's so many acupoints or marma points. That's actually self-care in order to help soothe the nervous system. The routine of some of the practices of our ancient wisdom is in order to keep you as an organism whole. If you're really flaring, do you need a bath? Like submerge yourself in water, heat. This will
Mm.
actually calm the nervous system. But again, this is where this is so individual, and this is so individual in the moment. What do you need right now? So that just takes time for you to go in, have the courage to be a little bit vulnerable, to say, all right, what do I need? I'm like going to listen here, but can you open up your heart a little bit to feel love, to let go of whatever you're holding on to, of whatever judgment, whatever pain, whatever suffering, whatever anger. At some point, if you can have compassion for yourself, to just let that go a little bit, and to just so that you can open up and see like what is causing you to be unbalanced. Because sometimes you have to be still enough to hear it. It's quiet, it is still. And sometimes that stillness is like, oh, I realize I really don't want to be with my partner that I've been with for 25 years. I knew it from the beginning, and I'm really had enough. You're going to catch up. And so you've got to be really honest with yourself. And that means being a little bit vulnerable to hear it, and being willing to care about yourself. You have to care about yourself enough to want to know that your wellness matters, the way that you feel matters. But it's really figuring out what you can do so you can hear it, so that you can hear what is it that's screaming to you to do. A lot of times it's relationship is finance, which means like the job you're in is not where you want to be. The relationship maybe isn't what you wanted. Maybe you've settled for both. And maybe that's catching up with you. And you've been masking it with alcohol, with drugs. Sugar is the biggest drug there is. That's the easiest thing to mask. And it's so socially acceptable. And because we just keep producing these foods that create addiction. At some point, if you can just be still enough to just hear it, because sometimes we don't want to hear it. How many times have you tried to tell your friend that that relationship they're in is like really not that good for them, but they don't want to hear it because
Mm.
they have an insecurity. They're trying to feel loved. And so they will take a crumble of love and attention that someone will give them for all the suffering, then the hours, the days, the years of suffering. We are so desperate to feel just a little bit more love. If you can remember that and know that that's what you're seeking, that so what is it that's taking you out of that, the truth behind that. If you can just be vulnerable enough to just sit and listen and know that you're going to be supported, remember your resilience, like as an energetic being, like you are resilient. That's like our promise. That is like our gift here. You are still alive. Your human spirit is there. Like it's amazing what you can accomplish with the mind, with keeping yourself, your vitality is still there. So remember you're competent. Remember you're a competent individual. If you are here, you are alive, you're still breathing, you have the capacity to open and still find the space and to be there.
Amazing. Dr. Leah Johansen, this has been wonderful. I hope that we get to meet. And
Absolutely.
I used to ride motorcycles. I stopped that. I only do one activity with consequence. I figure like we all have sort of a risk pie, and like you can't allocate it everywhere. Or or at least I choose not to. So I drive very
I
carefully
totally see
now.
that. Let's go to backcountry. We'll do Powder Mountain backcountry. They have cat skiing there. Let's
Yeah,
go do
yeah.
some
Oh,
cat
oh,
skiing.
Panorama's amazing. Yeah,
That
that's lovely.
Yeah, I'll totally come. Or come to Colorado, that's for sure. Or
Great.
anywhere. It's been such a pleasure. I just want people to know that if you just hold still, everything will come around. I know that I can talk in a lot of different directions, but it will come around here. I just want to give that preface that
If people want to get in touch with you, what would they do?
yes, they could please. I'm on LinkedIn, getting socials worked. I'm starting to really utilize those as a tool, realizing the tools they can be. Really, that we are, see these as tools to help support to come together. Those of us that, really let's come together. Our goal is to raise the vibration of the planet, right? If you're in there, like let's be well for ourselves because so that we can raise the coherence of the planet. Like let's create a little bit more peace. Let's make every day feel like a Sunday. Can we make it feel like that calm feeling? That's our collective. So please, you can find me, my website, drleahjohansenmd.com. I do have a book coming out, so they can sign up to receive notice when this is coming, but this is what I'm going to be talking about: relationship between our emotion, our self-worth, and chronic disease, and what we can do about it. Really what we can do about it to really be truly. And this is the thing I think in vitality and longevity that needs the most attention. Besides all the tools, your best tools are within.
That's right. We are our own best medicine. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Absolutely a pleasure, David.
We'll put all the links in the show notes to get in
Mhm.
touch with Leah. And have a wonderful day today. This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You too. And everyone out there too. Just sending you lots of love. May you all feel that.